recording. So brief introduction to Ron Whitehurst, Rinken Vitova Insectaries, our advisor on Integrated Pest Management for open source ecology. And we're going to go through a detailed discussion, lots of questions. We'll have a lot of time for questions. We were thinking about having Ron discussing the whole integrated pest management question for a bit of time and then maybe get into a number of questions. But we have up to 2 hours to do this, so there's plenty of time to get the questions, but really try to get it focused to the very practical applications, like, okay, next week or right now, what are we doing to make things good? What are we doing in a week, or what are we doing in over the next year? Because what we'll be doing, part of it, what I didn't mention, is we are also installing an Internet of Things camera, where you can log into to an IP number and actually see what's going on in a greenhouse from remote. So everyone actually has a chance to monitor what's going on within a greenhouse here. So it's an experiment. It's both for us and also for the world to see what that's about. And hopefully with the integrated pest management techniques, it's going to be green and very green throughout the year. Okay, so Ron, please take it away. Welcome to Factory Farms crew. So I'll turn it around, maybe. Yeah, we're going to mute ourselves.
Somebody want to pick up his cell phone?
And here's who we have, but you're not going to really see them too well.
Can't hear you.
Oh, whoops. Okay. Okay, Ron.
Hi, great to see you all. So, integrated pest management is controlling pests using an integrated approach, using a broad range of different actors to control the pest instead of just picking a pesticide off of a chart that would be appropriate for that particular pest. So this is what our great-grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers did, in their gardens. And so it's kind of, returning to the methods of our ancestors, in a sense. That in the organic principles, a healthy plant resists pests and disease. And so pest control, starts with the soil food web, building up from that, and looking at all the different factors. So outside, the Mother Nature provides the sun, the rain, and the air circulation, and all these other things. When you put up walls, then you have to take on more of those functions. And so it's a bit more active, more engineered environment, so that we have to take on some of the roles that nature provided outside. So we'll talk about those different aspects. So as gardeners, well, how many of you are gardeners? I guess that's one of the questions. Who's my audience?
About 40 people.
Almost everybody's done a little something, huh? Very good. So, that if you put too much nitrogen on a plant, whether from out a bag of chemicals or too much chicken manure, that you push the lush, soft growth of the plants, and that makes the plant really juicy looking, but it's also really attractive to all the sucking and chewing insect pests. And so managing your plants so they have enough nutrition, but not too much, is an important aspect. So let's see, where to go. Okay, so integrated pest management usually looks at the cultural, physical, biological, and all these different aspects together. And then as an insectary, we're particularly interested in biological. Put together some notes and the.
Does everyone else have their tech in airplane mode?
I share this with the group. So, in a sense, the conventional pest control is kind of a real macho activity where you're looking at controlling or dominating something. And biological control, incorporates more of the traditionally attributed feminine qualities, partnership, relationships, nurturing, and that sort of thing. So this is what we like to look at is the relationship, between the plants and the insects, and the relationship between the microbes, how they work to supply the nutrients to the plants, and they also may be diseases, to the insects, so they may actually be partners with the insects so that they can grow better. There's some amazing examples there. So all the things that almost all the things, with maybe one or two exceptions, will be acceptable in an organic program. So that if you're looking at representing your products as organic, there shouldn't be any problem. So we've got quite a list, quite an ambitious list of crops, and so they kind of break down into a couple of different categories as far as the way we would look at them from the standpoint of pest control in a greenhouse. So the lettuce, arugula, basil, cilantro, green onions, and garlic, and so on would be, we treat those like we would the culinary herbs, that they would have similar pests and similar problems. So we'll look at those as a group. And then all of the cabbage plants, will have similar pest problems, so we'll look at those separately. And I put together an IPM toolkit. These are some of the things that you might consider using as part of a toolkit or package for controlling pests biologically. And one of those is a refractometer. It's a little device. You take some of the plant material and use something like a garlic press to squeeze some of the juice out of the plant, put it on this little device, and then look through the device at the light, and then you get a reading on the sugar content of the plant. And it's been found that the higher the sugar content, it's measured in a reading called Brix, the less problems a plant has with pests and disease. And so it can be like a quick report card about how you're doing. Different plants have a different range of Brix readings for what's healthy for them. With a wide diversity of plants in the greenhouse, you'd have to keep a log of what the Brix reading for that particular plant represents, as far as in the spectrum of not so healthy to very healthy. Then
Ron,
there's
Ron,
USB.
sorry, Ron, can I interrupt you for a second? This Brix meter, how expensive is this?
They're about $80.
Okay.
So it's a little optic device, no batteries, and figuratively powered by the sun. So it's
Okay. So that's something we'd want to invest in.
Something that like a larger garden could reasonably afford.
Okay,
or
thank you.
You could partner. You could go into the tool co-op category.
Mm-hmm.
And then USB microscope. Everybody's seen these little hand lens and look through a microscope, and it takes us about 20 minutes to teach people how to use a microscope. but there's these USB microscopes that plug into the USB port of the computer, and then project the image on the screen. And most people know how to watch a screen and get information out of it, so it's really accessible technology. So you can see these little creepy crawlies, up close and personal on the computer screen.
How much are
And
those?
those are running about $40 now, so they're really accessible. And then there's hand lens, which is really useful for walking around and looking at things. It lets you see some of the details of little mites and chips and things like that. Sticky cards, those are really handy. They're kind of a passive thing to, they're just kind of hanging out there. And so passing insects that are usually flying will stick onto the card, and so you can see what's flying around. So the things that are walking around won't get onto the sticky cards unless they happen to fall on it. But it's a handy monitor to see what's there. And then as far as attractants, there's either vanilla or almond extract is really handy for attracting thrips, which is one of the common pests on a lot of the greens that you'll be growing in the greenhouse. Then to mount the sticky cards, a double-sided clothespin is handy. Take two clothespins, glue them together, and so you have a double-ended clothespin. And then you clip one to like a bamboo stake or a stick from the garden, and the other into the sticky card, so you can mount that near the top of the canopy for sampling for a lot of different pests. And then potato slices are really handy. You slice up a potato, and about a quarter-inch thick, about 1 inch square, and snuggle that into the soil. And that's a really good way to monitor for fungus gnats. Then a really important piece of equipment is a beat sheet. So it's basically like a white piece of paper that you hold underneath a section of a plant. You beat on the plant, the insects fall onto the sheet, and so it's really easy to see the insects in contrast to the paper. Where a light green insect against a dark green plant, doesn't show up very well. So that it's a great way of monitoring for a wide range of different plant pests that are on the plant. So in the soil, a pitfall trap or something like that works better. Then Ziploc bags are usually handy to have handy, so that you can grab a leaf or something like that, and then take it over and show it to somebody else who may have more experience with you. Then for trap crop, there's a lot of people who've looked at a wide range of different trap crops for different plants. There's a special black emperor pepper, and there's the hero yellow marigold that have been found to be very effective. But the baseline seems to be beans, just either bush beans or pole beans. You just stick some of those in a pot, and they'll come up, and it's a tremendous magnet for thrips, aphids, spider mites, a wide range of different pests in the greenhouse. And so it's really handy for monitoring. So if there's spider mites around, they're going to be on the beans, and so you don't have to wander all around the greenhouse. You just look at the bean plants and can get a quick handle on what the situation is with the spider mites. Then insect food. We put together this mix of dried berries, yeast, sugar, and organic soy flour. And it's a supplemental food for feeding beneficial insects, and it's kind of like a pheromone also, a feeding attractant for drawing in beneficial insects, outside. But for some of the larger mobile insects like lacewing adults and ladybugs. You can make this into a thin paste, smear it onto little strips of plastic, like sections of milk jug or yogurt container or something like that. And then place that around in the greenhouse, punch a hole in the plastic and use a little twist tie to mount that in the greenhouse. You can provide supplemental food full sec. So let's see, I've put together a list of some of the different pests that might be encountered. Thought I'd check and see where people are as far as any questions at this point.
Any questions here?
What were the ingredients on the paste for the beneficial insects?
Ingredients on an insect food?
Yeah, basically it's the base formula is about half and half brewer's yeast. And it comes from a basic recipe like for artificial pollen that's used by beekeepers. And I mix it about 2 parts sugar, 1 part dried brewer's yeast, and 1 part organic soy flour. So there's a wide range of different nutrients in it. Dried brewer's yeast is about 45% protein, so it's as high a concentration as soybeans for protein. And it has a wide range of different vitamins and enzymes and cofactors and such. They're really good for growing a wide range of different insects. And you can mix it with a small amount of water and make it into a paste and smear it or paint it on something. Or you can mix it with more water, about ½ pound to almost as much as 1 pound per gallon of water, and then spray it on large droplets widely scattered as a feeding attractant. Ken Hagen back in the 60s did some interesting work on that as supplemental food and as an attractant to draw in the beneficial insects from the surrounding areas to focus on particular plants. So in context of conservation biological control, where you're working with the natural enemy complex, it's useful to be able to not just put lab-reared insects out, but to manipulate the insects in the environment. So flowering plants are an important resource for a lot of different beneficial insects, like lacewing adults. The green lacewing adult is a vegetarian, and so why would you want to have a vegetarian come to your garden if you're trying to grow, plants to eat? The adult's attracted by nectar from flowers and then honeydew, the sticky poop from aphids, whitefly, mealybug, the sucking insects, and then deposits eggs. And her kids, the lacewing larvae, are vicious predators, and they'll eat all kinds of soft-bodied insects. So they'll eat aphids, whitefly, mealybug, small caterpillars, spider mites, and the eggs of a lot of different insects. They're really great to have around. And so you can have those in your usual garden by just having some a flower resource. So it can be your crop plants, a few of them that you allow to go to flower, such as the cilantro or dill. Those flowers are the what used to be Umbelliferae, now called Apiaceae, family. It has that broad, flat flower head with a lot of little flowers, and so it has pollen, nectar that's available to a wide range of different beneficial insects, from the little tiny microscopic wasp like trichogramma, that's about 1/100th of an inch long, up to your really big insects like the lacewing adults and syrphid flies.
How do you know, Ron? How do you know that you're not feeding the non-beneficial insects at the same time?
That was a good question.
Your question broke the internet.
How do we know that?
They eat the plants.
So they eat a different food. Okay.
Well, the ones that
Makes sense. Sheet. Let's see if we can.
So that's the problem. That's the problem with spraying, right? That you kill all the insects and then there's absolutely no areas where to put
Okay.
Okay, we're back. We're back. Okay. Any? Whoops.
Just turn off our stream. So leave the sound, but turn off our stream just to make
Hello.
Type questions to him.
Good to be back again.
We're back again. Okay. More questions on this part so far.
So ask him the question.
Oh yeah. So the question here was, how do we know that we're not feeding the non-beneficials with the foods you mentioned?
Okay. There's kind of trust that the beneficial will get the benefit. You can feed the ants, which are a major competition for the beneficial insects, and so there is a danger that you will be feeding the pest insects, but you will need to manage the ants separately, and so I'll talk about techniques for doing that.
Okay. So there is some dangerous something.
question. Is it
More questions.
Is there what is the soy what is the purpose of the soy in that beneficial insect supplement, and is there something else you could substitute?
Sure. You can use just the sugar and dried brewer's yeast. I thought that the soy would offer some different plant-based proteins and some other nutrients that come with it. Most of the soy would be roasted, and so some of the more delicate enzymes and things like that would have been destroyed. But it would have a different complex of nutrients other different than the yeast, which is usually fed on some kind of grain, but it's a byproduct of brewing beer, but was going for a bit of different variety, and it's commonly an ingredient in the artificial pollen for bees.
Other questions? I think we're ready to go, or let's see. Go ahead.
I don't know. Are you taking general questions right now, or just?
Maybe on this section for now.
Yeah,
Let's have the download first. Okay, Ron, please go ahead.
Okay, so you want to go through the. Would you like to go through the list of plants and pests?
Yeah, maybe we can go to an overview. Are you going to talk about the soil food web and the sprays more, or because I think that's critical, and we are going to use that.
Okay.
Do you have any comments on that, or were you going to cover that?
Sure. I can cover that.
Okay. Okay, so maybe cover that
Okay.
and then go into the specific.